So, a lot of the times when I think of trying to heal and trying to work through some of our things, right, is I wonder, where did I go wrong? Like, what were some things that I brought to the table that perhaps brought out the fire in someone else, right? Because obviously it's very easy to go, well, that person did this and they were so wrong and they hurt me, and you know what? Screw them. It's so easy to do that. Believe me, I did that in my teens and my 20s, right? Fast forward into like the 30s and 30s, um, you start kind of shifting your mindset. I think it starts with your parents. You can start to realize, especially if you're a parent in your 30s, you start to realize, wow, you know what, my parents really did the best they could do. My example would be I had teen parents, and I couldn't imagine being a teen mom. You know, my first child was born 20 days before I turned 21, so I was still young. But I wasn't a teenager. I had graduated high school, and I had held jobs since I was 13. Much different experience than what my parents went through, and I won't even pretend to know their experiences. In my 30s, I was able to kind of let go and forgive and have those aha moments, right? That my parents are just human after all, and behaving in human ways. They're spirits in a human body, but they were behaving in an expected way, so to speak. Fast forward, I'm now in my 40s, and I find myself on a new journey. Moved up to the mountains, and something up here has changed me in a good way. I say a good way because I feel more lightful, if that was even possible. Barely drink alcohol. I don't even know when the last time I had alcohol was, but I will be having a beer to cheers to my Aunt Robin at some point, because I want to find out what her favorite beer was, and we're gonna sit down and have a beer together, Aunt Robin. May she rest in peace, and myself. But today I want to dissect as quickly as I can do it, as quickly as it comes to me, relationships, specifically ones where this term is thrown around: narcissism, psychopaths, right? That seems to be the trending term. And quite honestly, all of us have those tendencies, right? Especially with social media. Look at mine. I have tons of selfies. If you just looked at it as surface, you'd be like, oh wow, she's into herself. But I'm really not. It's just, I can't take pictures of my kids anymore and share them. I take pictures of them, but they're for our private family, whoops, I forgot I had a microphone on. They're for our private family albums and stuff. I'm not allowed to share them as much um, as I once did. So it's me or the dogs, so I do share my dogs or my other half, or nature is really the other option. And it's winter, so right now I don't have a lot of outdoor photos, right? So that said, today I want to visit relationships, and specifically the ones that you'd classify, you personally, without any real deep knowledge, much like myself, you would classify as narcissistic relationships. I noticed that a lot of women out there who are classifying these relationships as narcissistic relationships, are looking outward, right? Maybe they're still in a different journey of their healing process. I'm much further along than some people are, and I'm behind others who have healed further, right? We're all in our own little spot of this healing journey and season in life. We're all in different places. But one thing I noticed is that some people seem stuck. They say they're not. They share things like they're not. But if you watch their tone and their word usage, you realize that they really haven't let go, right? They're not in that space yet. And that's okay. I always say this from a space of, curiosity. I'm always curious about how other people think and where they're at, and how they view this world. It's very fascinating to me. And much like I analyze others, I analyze myself more. And the only reason I can see this in others is because I've either gone through it, or it's something I can relate to myself. And I say that because the world is a mirror. We see in the world what we are. We see out there ourselves and others. And so I got thinking about one of my relationships I used to classify as narcissistic. And it may be, but I don't want to, I'm trying not to label, but that label helps you comprehend some depths of what was going on, right? And I was a single mom of three, and my kids needed to be number one. I was used to doing things my way. I was still very much so drinking alcohol and participating in other activities such as, physical activities, intimacy with people that probably weren't as well intending for me as I thought. So once I let go of those kind of things and I started journeying into a new avenue of life, less alcohol, less physical connection, like physical, you know what I mean, with people, abstinence, so to speak, a new you comes to play, and you can see the world through a completely different set of lens. And one of the things that has been tugged, wanting to come to surface and share with you is how I appeared in this relationship. Now, I'm not saying this from a blame point, and I'm not pointing fingers. It's just from a curiosity and perhaps a healing lesson. So I invite you to also revisit the relationship that you're talking about, that you feel like you're still healing from, that really, really damaged your soul, you feel, and find out how you showed up and what areas you could mend or course correct for yourself today, right? We need to shed the emotional attachment to yesterday. That's where we get caught up in never being able to heal, having those depressed moments, wanting to consume alcohol or sugar or something like crazy because we're trying to avoid subconsciously without realizing, right? So one of the ways that I noticed, and it keeps coming back to me, that I appeared was that I was with someone who wasn't a parent, right? They didn't have any children of their own. They didn't really have experience of nurturing. They didn't feel they were nurtured growing up. All these different aspects come into play with how I realized that maybe I could have been more nurturing, right? Now, it's not to say, I need to be very clear. Talking like this and accepting how you showed up is not condoning the actions or anything that was done to you. It's not about that. This is about your healing and taking an experience and using it so that you can heal better, so you can show up better today. It is not about that person. It is not about condoning what they did. It is not about accepting what they did. It's not about anything. We're not getting into that today. You can't do anything about that. It happened. What you can do is course correct yourself. So maybe, perhaps, you're showing up a little too strong because you're a parent and your children matter most to you, right? I remember times where it was like, listen, like, okay, so this is years into it, and you're frustrated, and you're tired of the silent treatment, and you're exhausted from trying to people please everyone, and trying to, not so much people please, but I'm a peacemaker by nature. Like, I like to keep the peace, and I used to do it at the cost of self. I've obviously learned to be better at not doing it at the cost of my own peace, but back then I wasn't quite there. So I would do it at the cost of my own inner peace. So it means I was just like overwhelmed, on high alert, overdrive, survival mode, all those little terms come into play. And so I was constantly feeling like I was pulled this way, that way, this way, and nothing would work because my partner, like, oh, I have anxiety and I need to talk to you now. My kids needed me because they were younger back then and needed me much more. And then there was the dogs, and they were drawn to me. And so it was just all these things that I felt like I was being tugged here and I was being pulled there. And I loved every single thing around me. I loved all of the beings around me, the furry beings and the human beings. I loved them with my whole heart. And all I wanted was for each and every one of them to feel complete and needed. Um, Not so much needed, actually, that's not the right word. I wanted each of them to feel complete and as loved as I tend to feel more often than not. But now I know it wasn't on me. It's not on me to help someone feel loved. That's on them. It's an inside job. So how can you use those feelings to show up better today? How can you use that feeling of needing to or desiring to be all the things for everyone at once, right? Without ever putting yourself and your needs and your cup first, you know? In my group, we're going to be talking about happy cups. We need to fill our cup. I'm going to share some beautiful little cups that we can drink from each day, quite literally magical cups that will help you feel more whole and complete, right? I'm going to share some meditations and all these different things that will help you that will help you fill your cup. Because back then, I wasn't filling my cup. I thought I was. I really genuinely did. But I wasn't. I was drinking my alcohol. A couple a night. 2 40 ounces of twisted tea a night. Half and half twisted tea was my favorite. And I would drink it every night. 2 of them, 1 or 2. After the kids went to sleep, I thought, well, it's my way to unwind. But what I didn't realize, it was my way to numb the situation, the brokenness inside that I felt because I was in an environment where more energy was being sucked from me than given to me. And I made those choices. I allowed that to happen. I didn't know healthy boundaries. I didn't know what was going on. I just loved this person so dearly. I felt so connected. I've come to find out there's reasons for that connection, and the chemicals that happen when you're consuming alcohol or you're having physical connection with someone, it kind of tricks you into thinking maybe something more is there that's not. I don't know. I let God choose my path, but I let my spiritual angel guardians guide me. The goosebumps and the gut instincts, as I called them in the past when I wrote about them. And I didn't let those things guide me in those years. I ignored them because I felt a yearning to help this soul at the cost of myself and my kids, some of my kids' inner peace. The lashing out, the anger, all the things that I experienced in that season and that my kids experienced, most importantly, my kids experienced, were things that I knew were not good for them. Were not good for their healing. Were not good for their growing bodies, right? Not at all. And yep, it was a choice that I made to be there. So I used to beat myself up about this choice. I felt such regret that my children never felt something I never wanted them to feel. And I still wish in some ways they hadn't, but perhaps that was part of their journey as well. I think that everything does happen for a reason. I believe that there's synchronicities and connections, and as long as we keep working in light, we'll have more light. If we keep working in the dark, we'll have more dark. If we try to maintain a balance and become better at filling our happy cups to show up with boundaries and inner peace, others around us will show up in the same way. So then I was too emotionally connected. I was too tired. I was too all these things, right? And so I think that sometimes two people bring out that in each other because they're two broken souls who don't know which direction to go, but all they know is they yearn for each other. They yearn to be together. They yearn for the possibilities that they see in their head. And they just want it to work. And so they just keep butting heads. And then you bring children into the picture, with a nurturing mother, a mother who really wants to love her children, take care of her children, and someone on the masculine side who is less agreeable and probably a little more alpha. There's two spectrums here. There was the agreeable feminine and the aggressive alpha. Those personalities are very dangerous together. They don't do well, right? Because you can get, as the agreeable feminine, you can get stomped on, right? But I embrace my agreeable feminine nature, right? And I am learning how to set those boundaries in love and light today, right? Because I went through that, I know this is important. And then you have the alpha male, right, who's aggressive, who didn't have the love and nurturing side. So their masculine qualities are higher than their feminine, and we all need both, right? And they have to do their work to figure out what's going on with that. Like, how do I balance? I don't want to treat people this way. It doesn't make me feel good, right? They have to have their epiphany moment, their light, their aha moment, and they may never have it. The same with me. I could have kept going in this path and kept making these choices and dating these same kind of people and drinking the alcohol and over consuming the physical connection with people, with men. And I could have done all those things, but something happened. Something happened as I ventured on to date someone else who was very similar to this experience, and I consumed more alcohol. We're talking a lot of alcohol. I remember one night when my kids were gone, and I believe it was a summer that they were staying with their dads. I had 18 half and half twisted teas one night, and I was still walking. I was walking, right? Did not feel so good the next day. Oh, my stomach just turned thinking of it. Ow, woozy was me. The world was spinning for at least 24 hours after that binge drinking event. And I realized that I was broken and that I was just drinking I was working, I was making money and working and trying to get into a new place, but I was continuously drinking and just making these, just letting life tumble me around, making the same choice of people to be around. And I was drinking a lot and I was doing all these things. And finally, my blood pressure went so high that I was lucky and blessed that I didn't have a stroke. And I realized I need to go to the ER because I'm woozy. I check my blood pressure at home because it's something I've always monitored at home. And I went to the ER and I had an angel in the emergency room. I never called him that back then, but you can see in my background. Here's the discharge papers from that day. All of the tests showed that there's nothing going on. There was nothing going on in my body, medically speaking, right? It was stress, and it was God's way, Grace Spirit's way, Mother Nature's way of showing me that if I kept making these choices, I wouldn't be so lucky the next time, right? So, I would say long story short, but it looks like we're about 16 minutes into this. And if you've listened this far, I'm so grateful for you because it is not easy sometimes for me to get my point across, but I try to share it in the way it comes to me. And I think my biggest point for this whole storytelling time is to let you know that you're not alone. We've all gone through these hardships, right? But if you can figure out what personality type you are, I talked about an agreeable feminine and an alpha masculine, kind of figure out where you are on that scale, right? Because that'll help you know what protections you need and what things to do to protect your natural ways, right? You don't need to be more masculine or more feminine. You need to find a balance that still embraces and cherishes the real way you were created, right? I don't mind being an agreeable female, but I can't be a people pleaser. I can be an agreeable feminine with a balance of masculine that's connected to source in a way that allows me to help others with energy healing, but does not allow me to soak in the energies. There's boundaries, there's things there. We have some crystal healing stuff that will work. We have journaling that can help. We have understanding how the planetary alignments maybe impact how you're feeling on certain days. Our feminine cycle. There's all sorts of things involved here. But all I wanted to share was that sometimes when we get so caught up in saying, well, that person's a narcissist, therefore they are bad, 0 stars given, I don't care who they are, they're awful, nobody should ever date them again. I think that that's not fair. I don't think that's fair to do to someone. Now, if they committed a crime and they went through the justice system and they have a record for that, fine, just let it be known that exists. And if it exists, someone's going to find it if they're meant to, right? We can't stop people from walking the paths they're meant to walk. And some people just keep walking in utter destruction. It's just how it is. We can't bring everyone to the light. So keep trying to be your best self, because by being your best self, with less name calling, more meditation, more crystal work, more eating healthier, you'll find that your changes bring light beings into your life. More people full of light that have the best of intentions for you. But you got to do that hard work. You got to get unstuck from being lonely, from being frustrated, from being angry at the species that you dated, right? You got to let that go. I hope you took something from this message today, and if you're interested, you can subscribe, you can like the video, you can leave a comment, maybe you can say where I could elaborate more, or maybe where I elaborated too much or not enough. Also, in the description below, I'll have some links to my Facebook group. It's brand new in 2025. I'm trying to get a bunch of us together, make some happy cups. We're going to do some book clubs, virtual book clubs for growth, and just for fun, just to get around people and laugh, right? So I hope that you enjoyed this, it resonated with you, and if you want to learn more about going from this to this, let me know. I'll do my best to try to help you with some Reiki, energy healing, and just some discussions from person to person. Okay? Peace, love, love. I can't make these hearts still, can I? Oh, it's kind of a heart. Mwah. Be well.